Okay, hopefully this is actually probably live. So, hello everyone. Thomas Fyre here again. This time to review SummerSlam rather than just normally talking about it. um, Overall thoughts, just to quick overall thoughts, just to get this out of the way, and I'll go into detail later. Eh, it was better than the last two pay-per-views. I'll say that much. But you know. Anyway, I will mention the pre-show match. Usually I don't bother covering the pre-show match, or I'll give it like a, yeah, that happened sort of reaction and then just keep going. Ooh, pardon me. But, Cesaro versus RVD was actually pretty interesting. Or at least it was very fun to watch. Especially Cesaro doing what essentially was a rolling thunder into a double stomp. That was pretty fun. And RVD having to nail the 5-star frog splash from like 3/4 of the way across the ring. So it almost looked like he basically just did a splash rather than doing a proper 5-star. He didn't go for the full sort of frog splash motion. He just went, fuck it, it's too far. Superman it. That'll work. But yeah, that match was fun. RVD won, which in my predictions I didn't really pick a winner, so I said it could go either way. RVD won. I really wish Cesaro had won, but apparently he's just been on a losing streak lately, so yes. Refreshing Coca-Cola at like almost 3:20 in the morning. I should be going to sleep, not friggin' drinking Coke. Um, anyway, opening match of the night. You know what? I almost forgot. It's been a while since I watched it. It was yesterday, Australian time, that I watched it. But way after it happened. I slept through it. And I wouldn't have been watching it live anyway. But Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz. What the fuck was The Miz wearing in his entrance? Like, I legitimately want to know because that was just so hilarious. I have never laughed that hard at someone, at like something someone has worn in wrestling, because you just, after a while you get desensitized to them wearing silly stuff. But what the fuck was that? Like, of all the things the Miz has worn, that's the weirdest, which is saying a lot. I mean, he's worn a pimped out fedora, for fuck's sake. And I'm what the fucking over whatever the hell kind of a jacket, coat, whatever the fucking hell that was. God. But anyway. And Ziggler was there. You know sorry, I've got a cough at the moment. I kind of liked how they played up the Miz dodging every single face shot he can, and half the time it almost costing him the match. That was interesting. Plus, it fits the gimmick, which I don't want to get hit in the face. Yeah, that's not an overdone thing purely in WWE. They even bring up that there was a match that happened with Rick Martel and Shawn Michaels where they agreed not to hit each other in the face. Which apparently didn't last, but, well, like, it's a good heel thing to go with, but it made more sense with someone like Cody Rhodes, where it was supposed to be it wasn't that he was a movie star or something. Which it seems weird, doesn't it? You think the movie star one would actually make more sense, but in my reality, no, it doesn't. Cody Rhodes did. Plus, when Cody Rhodes did it, we got Undashing / Doctor Doom Cody Rhodes, which was the shit. And I doubt we'll get anything that good out of The Miz after this finally wears off. I'm hopeful, but generally I just like heel Miz. Or at least I prefer heel Miz to face Miz, because face Miz was terrible. But anyway, back to the match. Aside from like Ziggler finally landing a punch on Miz kind of botching the skull crushing finale, and a kind of decent, like, looked like it really hurt kind of super kick that Ziggler landed. There isn't really much to say about this match. People seem to be calling this like the best SummerSlam in years. Is that really saying all that much? But anyway, Miz loses, and to me that really does seem like, as someone else on Pastime Viewpoints pointed out, and that I agree with, this is just a title change for the sake of a title change. That's all it seems like to me, because otherwise it's like, who cares, really? I mean, fans of Dolph Ziggler care, but I don't really care much for either guy, but I would have preferred they keep the title on Miz. Like, that's just my opinion. But, if you wanted the title on Ziggler, good for you, but just personally, these are my thoughts after all. I would have kept the title on Miz if I were them. For one thing, he's more relevant, because Ziggler went from, losing to Heath Slater to winning the Intercontinental title. How's that work? It almost seems like Heath Slater should be the one that's beating The Miz, even though Heath Slater's still heel. And honestly, at this point, they should turn Heath Slater face. Anyway, next match. Let's check here. AJ Page for the Divas title. Now, I like this match. This is a very good match, despite the fact that it was only like a minute long. Like, I didn't like that Battleground match, but it actually got time, which might have been its detriment, and maybe that's why they cut this one short. But the way this was going and how intense they were, this is the most intense, despite being so short, this is the most brutally intense seeming match that I've seen two Divas have. And we've had Divas hardcore matches before, so the fact that this was actually more intense than some of those for how short it was, yeah. Honestly, yeah, I really think this should have got at least this should have got 5 minutes. They should have just let them go for like 5 minutes, but they only got like what? Wow, they actually almost did give them 5 minutes? Fuck. That must have just been fast-paced then, because that really didn't feel like 5 minutes. Or just 5 minutes really does go by really quickly, because that match really did not feel like it went that long. Which is weird. Apparently it went 3 seconds under 5 minutes. But it really didn't feel that long. I don't know how they managed that, but okay. I guess at the very least this means that I wanted more, so there's that. Hopefully they do at least one more and then move on to someone else. Paige wins. And I'm mixed about that. Like, AJ just got the title back, and now they've put it back on Page. Make up your mind, guys. I hate it when titles get hot potatoed, even if it's between the same two people, because even then that's even worse. But I know that in a way it set up the whole were those the only two? Yeah, there were only three title matches. Just spoiler for later. All three title matches had title changes. Now, if there were title changes with, I don't know, the US title being on the line somewhere in this card as well, and the tag titles, then I might care more. But really, it just seemed like, oh, maybe Lesnar will win, and he did. So, or maybe it was oh, those two title changes happened, but now it won't happen in the main event. I don't know. They usually kind of try to do that. Hell, Survivor Series 2002, every single title on the line, which was pretty much every single title they had at the time, I think, outside of the World Tag titles, changed hands. Generally, yeah, every title that was on the line that night, which is pretty much every match was a title match aside from one or two. Changed hands, and that's a good pay-per-view, by the way. You should go watch it. Whether it's on the WWE Network or not, or otherwise, I don't care. Just watch it. So yeah, AJ Page. Well, yeah, apparently we know that Paige uses hair extensions, because I swear to God, that's what got yanked out of her hair. That big, long thing of hair that, to me, it just looked like, with how cut off it was at one point, I was like, okay, that's a hair extension. That explains how she was able to rip that out. At least that much hair out, because, yeesh. I mean, that would have hurt anyway. That seems like that would legitimately have hurt, but, whew. Yeah, it was a decent match, but it went way too short. To me, it felt way shorter than it actually was. So it should have got a bit more time. And of course, those fuckheads doing CM Punk chants. Guys, he's gone. Whether he comes back or not, he is gone at the moment. I don't think he ever will, but hey, that's his choice, whether he comes back or not. You guys chanting CM Punk every week, or every time AJ shows up as well, that's not going to do anything. That's just going to piss him off. Well, he'll get a cheap laugh out of that, but if he comes back, it'll be on his own terms, not the crowd bitching for him to come back. Just stop, okay? It got old 2 months ago. Hell, it probably got old a lot longer ago than that. But it's just pointless. Just stop, okay? Anyway, next match was the winner gets their national anthem played match, because I'm not calling this a flag match, because it wasn't. This is two, I think, maybe not, SummerSlams in a row where they've given us a match, or at least it seems like it's going to be one thing, and it ends up being another. The Ring of Fire match, which you owe me money, or Johnny Cash money, I don't know. You owe one of us money. Well, I guess Johnny Cash's estate money. The Ring of Fire instead of the Inferno match. So it's basically there to keep Fire there to keep people out rather than part of the match. I mean, yeah, for safety reasons I can see why, but just call it an Inferno match. You didn't need to change the name for one thing. And two, it just seems pointless. Like, okay, why not just use a cage then instead of fire? I mean, sure, fire suits Kane, but it seems kind of pointless. And now they've taken the flag match and taken the gimmickness out of it. It's just a normal match with a stipulation, a pretty shit stipulation, honestly. A cheap heat one. And you know what's funny? When I was watching, and Rusev came out, and then Lana started talking, and as soon as she said, "Shut up," I just muted it. I didn't skip, I muted it. Because I have decided that I'm no longer sitting through Lana promos. Some people go, "Oh, she's hot. I don't care." Honestly, yeah, she's kind of attractive. I don't know. Guess she's just not my type. I mean, God knows I'm not hers, so it works for both of us, or something, I guess. Oh. I'm not saying she's ugly by any means, but I just don't really get anything from her, and the accent doesn't help because it just sounds so fake. Like, yes, apparently she grew up in the USSR or some shit, but if she did, then that just makes her fake accent sound even worse. Um, but yeah, it's hard to listen to, and they basically make her cut the same promo every week. Like, seriously, when I hear about Lana promos, it's basically the same thing. Blah, something, 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 something. We hate America. Something, 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 something. Vladimir Putin. And that's it. Something, something, something. Cheap heat. Something, 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 something. Another form of cheap heat. And that's it. Now, something else that kind of bugged me about this match, but at the same time I give them credit, the wrestlers credit for, is that they had Rusev and Swagger basically both have injuries that they sold during the match. Rusev, I was almost about to say Kozlov. I don't know why. Kozlov was better. There, I said it. I didn't necessarily like Kozlov either, but I liked him a hell of a lot more than I like Rusev. Other than Rusev's kicks. That's all I like about Rusev, his kicks. And Swagger had bruised ribs or something somehow, or injured ribs from going for the Swagger bomb, and then Rusev had his knees up, so, that happened. And Rusev had an injured ankle due to Swagger going for the Patriot Lock before the match even starts. So you've got a guy whose main thing is kicks get his ankle injured before the match starts. So you've just cut off about majority of his actual offense. Okay. But I do like that they ran with it, at the very least. Swagger couldn't go for his power bomb, for one thing, let alone anything after a while that involved lifting. And Rusev basically tries to get the friggin' camel clutch on him, and instead of not selling it and just sort of powering through it, he sells it, ends up going down on like a one knee and having to do what the Big Show does, basically. And Swagger gets out of it, which the funny thing is without even trying, that actually makes sense. It's like, normally you'd think, well, if they're kneeling, wouldn't they have better leverage rather than just squatting over them? But, it also makes it so it's slightly easier to escape, I guess. So, That works. Um, Rusev wins though, and you know what? I'm kind of glad, but not because I like Rusev, because I don't really. I'm kind of eh. I can take him or leave him. He still looks like a hobo, so there's that. uh, um, but yeah, like I give WWE credit for that. Like, let's face it, we were all to a degree expecting the Rocky 4 ending, where Swagger wins and then Russia decides, okay, we're not going to do anything with the Ukraine. Some shit like that. Single-handedly, Jack Swagger stops World War III from happening. Hooray! God, that'd be hilarious if that was true. And then you know what? I gotta love. In retrospect, I love, even though I thought it was really dumb at the time, that JBL and generally that all the commentators were playing up that if Rusev lost, it's just so dumb. If Rusev lost, that Vladimir Putin would actually give a shit. Like, Vladimir Putin probably doesn't even know any of this shit is happening. I fucking highly doubt that he watches WWE. I mean, if he did, America would be in some deep shit by now. Oh, then again, they'd probably go, oh, don't worry. He's actually Bulgarian. And he'd go, oh, okay. Wait a minute. But yeah, like, honestly, I would have been more interested if they'd actually kept him as Bulgarian. Just had him be like, have him be Bulgarian, but like a Russian sympathizer. Ta-da! Done. that, that was like, that didn't even require any thought. Yeah, that match was kind of god awful. Nah, it wasn't god awful, but it could have been better. I'll say that much. I actually kind of think that match last month was better. Um, so there's that. Which, by the way, don't make a drinking game out of how many times I say "so there's that," because you'll probably die of alcoholic poisoning. So don't. um. So anyway. Oh yeah, and Coulter got kicked in the face. That was kind of interesting. But yeah, like I give them credit for having Rusev win because, as I said, we were all expecting we weren't necessarily expecting Swagger to win, but it's SummerSlam. It's the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. They probably would have pulled some Rocky 4 shit. So I do give them credit for actually going through with that. Besides, it gives him more heat anyway, legitimate heat. Kind of. Still kind of cheap heat. Anyway, Rollins versus Ambrose, aka match of the night, basically. I mean, let's see, what have we got left here? Yeah, match of the night. And you know what? I said in my predictions video that the only real thing that I wanted out of this match was Ambrose to beat the fuck out of Lumberjacks for no reason. Or at least for no real reason. Just the kind of the fact, excuse me, kind of the fact that they're there. And he did. So I'm satisfied. But yeah, this match was pretty damn good. And it was so funny too, like legitimately funny moments that maybe they weren't intended to be, but just half the shit Ambrose did. Like, just throwing them around, and they try to get him back in the ring, so he suicide dives out onto them. And dive. They're trying to carry, like, ooh. That cough. Swatch cough. Nah, that was terrible. Yeah, the Lumberjacks are trying to get Rollins back into the ring. So they pick him up above their heads, and like essentially crowd surfing him back in a way, generally carrying him above their heads. So what does Ambrose do as soon as they get close to the ring? Dives off the top rope out onto. Oh, that was classic. As was the moment where Ambrose, I'm pretty sure it was Ambrose, is on the ring apron and suplexes Rollins out of the ring onto a bunch of lumberjacks. And Rollins actually flips right over and smacks face first onto the announce table. Like, good lord. Yeah, I even kind of love how, like, essentially the lumberjacks are doing their job at first. But Ambrose just, like, he doesn't want to be touched by them, so he takes a swing. And that's the only reason that the heels attack him next time he gets out of the ring. And, like, Kane comes out at one point because they've just buggered off into the crowd, and the lumberjacks are like, what do we do now? And Kane just comes out and is like, hello, go after them. So they end up dragging him back before it looks like Rollins is going to fucking pile drive him out in the crowd. Which, it's funny that the crowd booed that not happening, but okay. And this might be my favorite Dean Ambrose doing the pendulum lariat, I'm pretty sure is what it's called. You know, the thing where he sort of falls back into the ropes, goes backwards, like almost falls out of the ring basically, then comes back up and wham! I really love that he's basically adopted that from Nigel McGuinness. Like, it's a nice little nod, especially since I'm not sure if he was ever in, if Dean Ambrose was ever as Jon Moxley in ROH. But, you know, it seems like they would have known each other at the very least because they were both on the indies. It's a nice little nod. There are other guys on the indies that do it as well, but, you know, Ambrose bringing that to WWE, it's a nice nod. You fucking turned him inside out with that one. And it actually sounded pretty impactful too. I still think, like, I really wish, hell, Alberto Del Rio is gone now. Seth Rollins, let him use the super kick to a kneeling opponent thing as his finisher now. Don't call it the Avada Kedavra because, well, you know, legal issues. But, you know, have him do that again or just do something else. Like, because what they're calling it a curb stomp, but is it really? I mean, like, wrestling-wise, that's not what a curb stomp is. So, yeah. So yeah, Rollins wins. I'm okay with that. You know, it was a dirty finish, but it was all in the confusion, and really, it suits Seth's character, so I'm fine with it. As long as Ambrose gets another shot at him, because like these guys need to have a series of pay-per-view matches. Hell, have a best of 5 or something between these guys for the Money in the Bank contract. That'd be pretty interesting. Especially if they had like the winner do something like what I've seen before happen in Australia, where all the matches can have stipulations, and like the winner of of a specific match chooses a stipulation for the next match. So like it could start off normal, and then the winner of the next match makes it cage match. And then whoever wins the cage match might choose a street fight, and then Hell in a Cell or something, or fucking ladder match or tables match, something like that. Just I doubt WWE would ever do that, but and they'd be right not to, I guess, because the only reason that works on the indies is because the Fed that specifically did that I've seen was once a month, so it worked for them. I doubt it would work for WWE, unless it was purely pay-per-view, or they just sort of did not really all that big stipulations. I don't know. But yeah, match of the night by far, because I generally even if it wasn't necessarily the best technical match. 1 second. The detriment of doing this live, eh? But yeah, even if this wasn't necessarily the best technical match ever, these guys put on a show and it was entertaining. I enjoyed watching this match more than any other match that happened. So that's I was gonna say there's that, but that might as well be my fucking catchphrase. If I ever make merchandise for whatever goddamn reason, if I ever get enough of a following for that, I swear to God I'm going to get a shirt that says, "So there's that" on it. So you heard it here first. Okay, Wyatt versus Jericho. I liked it. It was a hell of a lot better than that match last month. And Bray won clean. Thank Christ, because let's face it, I really did think that they were going to debut a new Wyatt family member, or just something would happen that made it so. Generally, if Bray won, he didn't win clean. And what's funny is, I guess I see why they did the "let's ban the Wyatts" thing, because Jericho won and the Wyatts weren't there. Like, Harper and Rowan weren't there. So I guess it's a case of, well, if he lost with them there, if we keep them out, because they tried to interfere in that match, if we keep them away, maybe Jericho can just flat out win anyway. But nope, Bray wins clean. Which suits him, I think, because he doesn't really seem like a heel that would really resort to cheap tactics. Not necessarily wouldn't cheat, but, wouldn't resort to, like, low blows or something like that. Because, well, fuck, does he need to? Look at how fast the fucker can run, but he's that big. I mean, it's like what they used to say back when he was Husky Harris. He's a fucking army tank with a Ferrari engine, or whatever the hell they called him. Some sort of tank with a Ferrari engine. I forget. If you remember, say so in the comments or something. I hope that they have one more match and that Bray wins again, but at the same time, the way this kind of ended, it seems like it could be over, because Bray was just like, well, I guess he learned to follow the buzzards. Do-do-do-do-do-do. And that's like, okay, so is that it then? Because really, I think that's the funny thing. Because it ended clean, this could be over. It could just be, yep, I beat Jericho. Now what? Hopefully he does move into something else if that's it, and it's not just him sort of wandering around aimlessly. Hell, I'd even have him go up against the fucking authority if they're that desperate for him to have something to do. Because, that seems like it'd be something he'd do, even if he was still heel doing it. Like, it could work. Um, Now, the next match. Now, this is funny. Orton and Roman Reigns. My God. This match has a funny history for me. Because it took me several hours to finish watching it. Now, I don't mean I got easily distracted, but I did. I was using my family's computer instead of my family's main computer instead of what I'm using to do this, which is my dad's laptop. And my sister needed the computer to do up divorce papers or something. So I came back into my room and played video games and stuff, and then had dinner. And it was only after that that I came, like, I don't know, about an hour later, or maybe two, I came back out and then I finally finished that match and then finished watching the rest of the pay-per-view as well. So it was like, oh, it took me long enough, but I got there. Like, it's kind of sad it took me that long, but, you know, I don't even know, really. Like, this match, this was, I'm gonna go out and say it. I didn't think much of it at the time, but this would probably be, going by my reactions, and to make this truthful, this wasn't a bad match. Was it a great match necessarily? That's debatable, but it wasn't terrible. And Randy Orton was in it, so that's that's an achievement. Because you really have to do something to make me care about Randy Orton. And the snap scoop slam as a spear reversal, and that was one of the quickest snap power slams or snap scoop slams or whatever we're going to call it. Scoop power slam. That's what it's called. Scoop power slam, not snap one. Scoop power slam. I'm pretty sure it's the name for it. If it's not, someone will correct me. But yeah, that was pretty cool. Though of course Randy was wearing grey tights, and well, that about sums my opinion on him up. Apathetic. The mid-air RKO was, honestly, that was kind of one of the first of those kinds of RKOs I think I've ever seen. Because, yeah, we've seen, people diving off the top rope and getting caught in one. But I don't think we've ever seen someone, pretty much literally just jump into it from being on their feet. They said he was going for the Superman punch, but it didn't really look like that to me. But, okay. He does that and kicks out of the RKO. Randy goes for and that's where that was the fucking moment where I had to pause it and just let my sister use the computer for a while. And then I come back and then another minute before anything really happens, and then it's over. It's funny how that worked, because I thought there was a few more minutes left, but nope. Orton is like, what should I do now? Then goes to try and punt him, gets swept out. A bit of a Peanuts moment, I guess you could say. God, someone better make that into something. That'd be pretty funny. Um, yeah, really fast ending though. Once that gets underway, it's just like that happens. Reigns like jumps to his feet, comes off the ropes, ducks clothesline, comes back, sort of. It didn't even really look like a proper spear, but or at least not one of his better spears, but he just kind of leaps at him and just happens to connect. Yeah, like, and Reigns wins. Okay. I do prefer Reigns over, like, if I had to pick, I prefer Reigns over Randy. So, hey, I'm fine with that. Not really too much to say about that. I'm just wondering where the hell this is going. Because, like, what? Are we going to get Reigns versus Brock Lesnar or something? Ugh. God, I hope not. Though, a face is gonna have to get the title now for Rollins to cash in, because I really don't see them allowing Rollins to cash in either successfully or unsuccessfully, which honestly I think he won't successfully cash in, but who knows. Um, Lesnar, oh god. So the main event. Now, I've seen mixed reactions from this. I've seen people loving it, which I think is just out of hatred for Cena. They just jerked off to the fact that he was getting the absolute shit kicked out of him. And hey, if you like that, then fine, fair enough. But to me, it was disappointing because I've heard so much great things about their Extreme Rules match from the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, like, what, 2 years ago? So to see the sequel to that, and probably their third pay-per-view match together, because they had a match at Backlash 2003, for those of you that don't remember. To have the follow-up to their match 2 years ago be a squash. I mean, let's face it, it's a glorified squash. And yes, you might say, oh, but that's what most of Cena's matches are. He basically gets the shit kicked out of him, then comes back and wins. Not this bad, though. And the weird thing is it was monotonous. It was boring. It was repetitive to me. Whether, like, if this had been, picture this match the exact same way, but Cena won instead. Would people be lauding this as a great match? No. Because Cena wins lol. But no, Lesnar won. The part-timer won. So suddenly everyone... And you know what? I'm just going to go off on that. Because really, that's all I have to say about the main event. It was boring to me. I don't like that Lesnar won. Personal opinion. It's not that I hate... I don't necessarily hate Lesnar, but I just prefer original run Lesnar, who could actually wrestle very well. I'm not saying this Lesnar can't, but look at that. He hit 16 German suplexes. Aside from like some punches and the F5s that actually connected, the German suplex was like the only fucking thing he did. This is a guy that had great matches with Kurt Angle. Now he can only do German suplexes? That's like 3/4 of this match was German suplexes. That'd be if, like, the Young Bucks just stopped doing anything else and all they did was super kicks. Like, they didn't do the more bang for your buck. They didn't do any high-flying moves at all. All they did was just super kicks. Now, some people would probably be totally fine with that, but I wouldn't. And this is all my opinion. So, like, if you, like, and this isn't, like, it really bugs me because people were outraged that The Rock won the WWE title. And, like, some people, it was just flat out the fact they don't like The Rock, and that's fine. But it's the idiots and the hypocrites that said, because he's a part-timer. And the people that said the same thing about Batista. But now they're suddenly all up in arms with joy about the fact that Brock Lesnar is now the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Fuck you. You fucking hypocrites. That's all you are. Everyone that was against The Rock and Batista getting the title, and yes, Batista didn't, thank God, but The Rock did, you didn't like it, and now a part-timer has got it again, and you're all fucking happy. If you are specifically someone who didn't like The Rock having it because he's a part-timer, but you are totally okay with Lesnar having it, fuck you. Like, I don't like Lesnar having the title because he is a part-timer. And, like, unless they've added more dates to his contract so he can actually defend the fucking thing at, like, the rest of the pay-per-views this year, if that's how fucking long he has it. I don't know. Let's face it. They wrote themselves into a corner with this whole Lesnar thing. If he lost, then it would make The Undertaker look shit. So he had to win. But now who the fuck's supposed to beat him? Because now whoever beats him is going to make The Undertaker look like shit. To the point that it almost seems like they'd have to bullshit an injury and vacate the title just so he could lose it. Or, like, you know, they'll have Cena come back, win it, and be a 16-time world champion. And that's something that people haven't realized yet. He was a 15-time champion. Now, when he gets the title back, and let's face it, he will, whether it's from Lesnar or someone else, he will be a 16-time world heavyweight champion. Just let that sink in. Like, I really don't give a shit, because if you have that many titles, like, is that really such a prestigious thing to have 16 world title reigns? Especially when, with Cena, most of his were actually pretty damn short. Like, some of them were pretty long runs, but let's face it, some of those are pretty short, including this one. He only won it, like, what, 2 months ago? Yeah, that's a really good reign to be proud of. Like, overall, this pay-per-view was, like, middle of the road for me. It had some really good things, but others were just like, what the fuck? So it was better than the last two. I forget exactly what my thoughts on Money in the Bank were. I don't think I entirely hated it, but Battleground was just horrendous. Like, my standards are so low for WWE pay-per-views these days, but I fucking still hated that pay-per-view. I hated it. Like, I thought it was completely horrible, and I went in with absolutely no expectations of anything. The only thing that I liked from Battleground was the opening match, from what I can recall. Maybe like one other thing, but that was about it. It was like, well, it's all downhill from here. In this case, there wasn't so much. Was there a bad match? Probably. Was there a terrible match? You know what? I'm going to call the main event terrible. That was the only terrible match. Oh, speaking of, I forgot the other Divas match. Whoops. I guess I might as well talk about that now before I go on rambling again. Let's see. We have Stephanie McMahon versus, God, what was it? Nikki Bella? Or was it Brie? Well, one of them. They're interchangeable, except one has bigger tits now. So, you know, there's an easy way to tell how terrible of a wrestler you are. And for the Divas, that is if Stephanie McMahon can outshine you. Like, it was a short match from what I remember. Or maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Oh my god, they got 10 minutes. That really did not feel like 10 minutes. Thankfully. I mean, at the same time, it's probably what's kind of weird is that it's actually probably the best match that Stephanie McMahon has had in the WWE. Like, ever. That's like the crowning achievement of her career is a match with one of the Bella Twins at SummerSlam. Wow. And she's been WWE Women's Champion. Well, I guess it was WWF back then. But that's kind of sad, isn't it? She has been WWE Champion. Sorry. Women's Champion in her career. And yet, the best match she's ever had was with one of the Bella Twins. That is some terrible shit. Like, yeah, the match wasn't god awful, and it was actually pretty kind of funny in a way. And there was a there was a you still got it chant, which mainly I find hilarious because she never had it. Ever. She did not have it. Stephanie was never a wrestler, and she never claimed to be. She even claimed as such in the lead up to this match. She's like, "I'm not a wrestler. I can't wrestle you. That would be stupid." Like, which honestly I find is a rib to any time they have ever made a non-wrestler have a match in the past, Steph herself included. I actually have one of those on DVD, and it is horrible. And it's her getting squashed by Vince, so I really will have to, if it were physically possible, I have a counter for that. Me saying, so there's that, but anyway. The heel turn that we all saw coming, where... So yeah, it was Brie. Okay. Steph defeats Brie because Nikki Bella, aka the one with the boob job, just sort of essentially pulls Stephanie out of the way and then just socks her sister one. And the hilarious thing will be if they have these two feud, because they've tried this before. So that's why it's not so surprising. Like, the WWE seems to have this thing where they don't like us to have long-term memory. And the Bella Twins, I don't know how I remember this, because I never really cared about it, but on the WWE version of ECW, and probably the other shows as well, they had the Bella Twins against each other. One was face, one was heel, because they were both banging different guys or fucking whatever, I don't even know. It didn't last very long, I don't think, but, you know, this has happened before. To a point. And it didn't work then either. Like, I'll put it this way. You want me to be interested in the Bella Twins? Make them do flying snapmares again, or flying mares, or whatever you want to call them. Make them do those again, because that was like the one move they had that was worth looking at. And now they've got nothing. So, well, that said, Nikki actually did kind of impress me last year, I think, at Survivor Series, so, you know. It's kind of funny. The one that got the most exposure, technically, was one I didn't give a shit about. And what's funny, I actually legitimately laughed when Brie hit a drop kick on Triple H, and Triple H sold it like death. He didn't get up until after the match was over. Or at least until the match was almost over. I mean, that happened right near the end of the match, but it was like, wait, what? The funny thing is if this was Triple H like even a few years ago, he wouldn't have sold that. But I guess since he's not an active wrestler anymore, he can get away with doing that, or just was actually going to sell it. But it was like, okay. And Stephanie won, which I'm pretty sure I wanted to happen anyway, so hey. And with a pedigree, no less. Which, God, I love the setup for that. Fucking JBL just going, what does a dog need? Pedigree! I got a good laugh out of that. But, yeah, the heel turn, pretty much everyone was calling. I didn't really care, because I don't care about the Bella Twins. And they're interchangeable. The only thing that you can really spot the difference is now they've started dressing differently. And generally, yeah, Nikki has a boob job. So, you know. So, overall thoughts. Again, this pay-per-view was better than the last two. But, like, I'm not won over that easily, WWE. You're going to have to do a better job than that. Like, I want to like WWE. I really do. I don't like being this cynical. I never used to be this cynical. In fact, for a bit of a life story, I actually used to be one of those people that was so positive that it was fucking annoying. So, the fact that I've become jaded and cynical is kind of sad. But yeah, really, it's a case of me living up to my namesake, I guess. Well, okay, no, I wasn't really named after the disciple Thomas, but, you know, I am a bit of a doubting Thomas these days. So, it's sort of oh yeah, because, like, there were people that would, like, a friend of mine even said, oh yeah, there wasn't a bad match on this pay-per-view, and I was like, I'll see it when I'll believe it when I see it. And nope. There were bad matches. Not necessarily terrible, but, you know, ones that they were forgettable. Because it was only, like, okay, yeah, it was quite a few hours ago that I actually watched this, but I've already forgotten most of what happened. So, there's that. God. I really gotta find something else to say instead of just repeating that over and over again. God, that's gonna get annoying. Now that I'm aware of it, it's gonna become even worse. But yeah. WWE, please try. Please. Try harder than this. Like, it's so sad because, like, people go, oh no, but you're just saying that like you know better than they do. It's not that I think that I know better than WWE. It's that they are better than this. They have proven in the past that they are better than this. So why the fuck aren't they? Ugh. Like, fans like me always get that kind of get that kind of flack. It's like, we'll say, why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? Blah, 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 blah. And people will be like, people will just be like, oh, I don't, like, oh, you wouldn't know, you're not in yeah, you're not in wrestling, blah, 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 blah. And they'll just go. And yeah, I like my defense for that is always, it's not that I know better, it's that they should know better sort of situations, and I'm getting a bit rambly. Luckily, a friend of mine has given me a question to answer, so I'll just go to that. A friend of mine from That Ruled, Skeletroy, has basically asked, so to solve Lesnar having the belt, what do you think the chances are of bringing Sting in to take the title from him, leading to the inevitable Taker versus Sting match at WrestleMania 31? They'll both retire after anyway, vacating the title, considering the Taker match is usually the one people look forward to anyway. Why not have that as the main event title match? Brock Lesnar destroyed The Undertaker at WrestleMania 30. Sting, who's a lot more frail and 50 years old at this point, I don't see it. I'm sorry, Troy. I do not see that happening. That would be terrible, honestly. Like, no, like, I don't mean to be harsh, but that would be a terrible idea. I mean, I wouldn't put it past WWE to do that. But my god, that'd be horrible. Like, Brock Lesnar is a mountain of a man against someone half his size and twice his age. Like, he decimated The Undertaker. He's made Hogan his whipping boy back when he was new, back in 2002. He beat The Rock. He's now beat Cena finally. Well, okay, he beat Cena back in 2003, but now he's beaten the Dynasty John Cena. Quite soundly. So if he beats John Cena like he's nothing, and he's beaten The Undertaker, which ironically he had a harder time beating a worn down, broken down, beaten up Undertaker with shot knees than he did against John Cena. I mean, you could go with the kayfabe, oh, he's an undead guy excuse, but no, they've been downplaying that for years, so that doesn't count. But, and really, that's something else I should probably bring up. I do not want to see Sting versus The Undertaker. If Sting does actually do any wrestling for WWE, I hope it is not against The Undertaker, because that match will be horrible. Because at this point in their career, it's not so much their age as their conditioning. Sting is on his last legs, and The Undertaker doesn't have any. I love The Undertaker, don't get me wrong, but it's actually because of that that I don't want him to wrestle ever again. Ever. At least at WrestleMania. Because he just can't go anymore. let the poor guy retire. Put the guy down. Well, okay, putting the guy down is probably a bit dark. That almost sounds like I'm saying put him out of his misery. But well, I guess that's sort of what I mean. But not put the dog down. It was a bit dark. But neither guy could. You need someone to carry both of them, basically. Chris Jericho versus Sting. That I would love to see. But yeah, you need someone that can carry Sting at this point. And you need someone that can carry The Undertaker at this point. Which is why I think Brock Lesnar Taker, even though I thought it should happen, I was kind of dreading. Because Brock Lesnar could not carry anyone. At this point in his career, anyway. He's carried people before, but, at this point in his career, he can't. Because he apparently only has 3 moves. It's kind of sad. I'm kind of depressing myself. Yeah, Sting with the WWE title. God, that would be weird. But yeah, honestly, if anyone takes the title from Lesnar, it'll either be John Cena doing a sort of Rocky-style comeback, which the funny thing is a friend of mine even equated this whole scenario to the plot of Rocky 3, which, considering they're doing Rocky 4, they sort of did Rocky 4, but not really, with Rusev and Jack Swagger. Seems a bit odd. Plus, Brock Lesnar isn't black, nor is he a rookie. So, there's kind of that. Also, he's definitely not as cool as Mr. T. No matter what his race is, he would not be. So, there's that. And if it is, then, well, that basically means Cena's going to go away, do a movie, come back, and be like, and that's not a Rocky 3. This isn't a Rocky 3 scenario. So I never even understood what he meant by that, but I was like, what? No, it's not. But yeah, Night of Champions looks like it's going to be pretty shit, honestly. I will watch it because I'll review it, but I don't care. This SummerSlam wasn't all that bad. But has it won me back? No. Speaking of, let's just check the dates. Yep, it has officially been, as of last Thursday, I think. Yes, as of last Thursday, it has been 2 full years since I watched Raw. The 14th of August 2012 was the last time that I watched Raw. Funnily enough, it was the segment with Brock Lesnar that put me off. Them just dragging something out so long because they had 20 minutes left to fill is what put me off. So, yeah. It's all come full circle. I guess. The great circle of wrestling. But at this point, I'm basically rambling. So even though I've actually got people watching for once, as I do this live, I'm pretty much going to have to call it a night or a day. Even though it's dark, I still consider it daytime because, I'm going to have to call it a video because it's almost 4:30 in the morning, so that means I've been going for close to over an hour at this point, and I don't like my videos. That's just me going over an hour. So I'm gonna have to stop now. So I will see you guys next time, which should be tomorrow. Well, later today, tonight, or tomorrow morning. Generally, sometime Australian time tonight, or early morning Wednesday Australian time, because I'm going to see Guardians of the Galaxy, and I will be doing a video on it, whether I like it or not. Which, I don't mean like I'm going to force myself to do a review. I mean like, whether I like the movie or not, I am doing a video on it. So, yeah, I'm going to see that with my dad and a friend of his. So, that should be interesting. This will make the third, I think. Third or fourth. Oh, wait, sorry, fifth Marvel movie that we'll see in the cinemas once I see it. So I'm kind of looking forward to it because people has been like, it's a, well, not generic, but it's a sort of dumb fun kind of movie where you can just switch your brain off and enjoy it. And it's like, hooray! Like, that's enough to make me want to go see it, I guess. So, hey, why not? um, so yeah, I will see you next time with that. I'm Thomas Fireheart. I will hopefully see you relatively soon, which will make this the most frequently I have uploaded anything ever. So, see you guys then.